Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. As you can see, I'm not alone this time. This is my wife. You can say hello.
Hi.
So, hello everybody. It's getting very dark. Look at the sunset.
Yeah, it looks great.
So, we have some news from Wuhan, where everybody is locked down. There is apparently a village near Wuhan, and there was one case of the virus in the village, and one of the families wanted to leave. And you can tell them what happened. She's the one that can read Chinese and knows the story.
So there is a confirmed case in the village, and the person who is in charge of the village sent a guy to be out there and block the road and everything. So everyone can just have to stay inside. And when that happened, this one of the family members,
watch out for the mud.
they were trying to get out, and of course they couldn't get out, so they started to quarrel with a guy. Next thing you know, the guy just got a knife and killed three of the family members.
So, I guess in this case, the government workers are killing people trying to escape. Yeah, don't fall down.
Yeah.
That's the first I've seen in the Chinese news where something related to the government actually killing people for trying to leave. Now, I don't know that he was killing them at the direction of the government. In fact, I highly doubt that the government told him to take a knife out and kill a family. But it does sound pretty bad. I know the people here in town have been harassing people, but that's a far cry from taking a knife out and actually killing a whole family trying to leave. Oh, look at this. I managed to find us some graves to walk past. It seems everywhere I go, there's graves. What can you tell us about these graves? Because I've been encountering them constantly, and I'm trying to figure out what the deal is. It looks like there's a bowl on the top of the old ones. What exactly is that?
Well, those are older graves, and they're just from the village.
But why did they put that bowl thing on the top? You can't see it very well from there, but...
Yeah, that's just like a symbol for the family sort of thing.
I was thinking maybe they burn incense in it or something. It shows you that I have no idea when it comes to the religions out here. So, now there you go. It's just a symbol of some kind. Now watch out for all that mud. So, I've spoken a little bit in the videos about my experiences coming to China originally. My wife has spent a lot of time in the United States, but I thought it might be interesting to have her take on her first impressions arriving in the United States.
Well, so I went to America a long time ago. Wow, I can't believe it. It has been over a decade.
Yeah.
It makes me feel old. And so before, when back in 2007, and there were some foreigners in China, but not tons of them. So whenever they were walking around or outside, local Chinese people would be staring at them and just be curious about them in general. But so that was a funny thing for me, because I thought when I went to America, there would be tons of people staring at me because I'm different and such.
Not so much.
That's when I arrived at Washington Dulles Airport, and I got out. I got off the plane and stood inside the bus, and nobody stared at me. So not even a single person. They just assumed I live in America or something. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah,
that wasn't
more
what
mud.
I was expecting.
You might want to stand over here. There's a lot of mud. So I've gotten us into a bunch of mud, if you can see down here. So we're kind of going back the other way. And I wanted to mention something. She reminded me about when she was mentioning the bus. She's talking about those big people mover things they have at Dulles. Actually, I don't know if they still have those. I don't know how long, if they don't, how long it's been. I've been out here. I haven't been through Dulles in such a long time. It used to be, and anyone that's been through it, they know Dulles, in Washington, D.C., the airport. They had these huge machines. I guess they just call them people movers. I think when they built the airport, the idea was that they were like futuristic or something, but they're really just like some kind of giant bus thing with I don't know what on the top of them. They were just weird. But that's what she's talking about. I bet that was a kind of a strange... Boy, the buses in America are sure weird. But, yeah, that reminded me of those people movers. You know, one thing I'll bet that you saw a difference in the size of food in the United States compared to here in China. I'm not sure if I've mentioned the food sizes here. If you're someone viewing in the United States, it's much smaller than what you'd be used to, which means that the size in the United States is, and I'm talking about food at like McDonald's or something. I don't mean, because Chinese people can eat a lot of food, but not like huge quantities of soda or giant, huge stacks of French fries. She can talk to you about that. What were your impressions of the fast food in America?
Yeah, definitely. Just food in general in America. When I was there the first time, I was shocked like how big everything, like how big they looked, like the sizes. When you like the eggs in China, whenever you buy eggs from the store, they're all tiny little eggs. And when you go to the, Walmart or Target, they have jumbo eggs.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
They're twice as big as Chinese eggs.
What about
It's
the
crazy.
chickens?
And chickens, they're even worse. They're like twice, at least double size. And everything is like double sized in America, And the chicken legs, wow, I have never seen anything so huge.
I guess, yeah, I know it's a joke. I'm not saying everybody in America is fat. I know I am, but, everything's bigger in America. Even the chickens are fat in America. It's just, yeah, a little bit different than here. If you see chickens here, they're, well, natural chickens in general. I don't know what they give the chickens back in the United States, but chickens naturally don't tend to be so large. So I'm sure that was a bit of a shock. What about other foods like pizza?
Pizza, yeah, definitely. In China,
I'm bringing all this up because, I miss all these things.
Yeah, I know. So in China, if you go to Pizza Hut or Domino's here, and you order super large size, they're just like the normal medium size in America.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But you have to pay, the same price, like for the large size in America. But you're just getting a medium size.
It's more here.
Yeah.
Even the small size. If you can get a large pizza in America, I think last time I was there, I mean, it's not the highest quality of pizza, but you can always go to Little Caesars and get a $5 large pizza. Believe me, there's nothing in China pizza that's $5 for a large pizza. And even if it was a large, it's actually a medium or small.
Yeah, so if you get the, super size,
the bugs are coming out.
in China, and you would, they're actually the medium size in America, you would be paying somewhere around $20 for it.
Yep. $20 medium pizza, Pizza Hut pizza. And it's not really all that different from the pizza in the United States. Actually, I take that back. I think it is different because I don't think there's somebody in the back making the pizza. I think they come frozen from a factory or something.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
Now, since we are in the countryside, I thought I would bring up the differences between the countryside in the United States and the countryside in China. What are your observations?
Well, Well, whenever you think of, well, for me, that is, whenever I think about, countryside and everything, I prefer the European countryside. You know,
Yeah, I'm sure most people
it's
do.
it's much nicer and more, I would say, um, larger style.
Well, I I feel like in the from what I've seen of Europe, there's a lot more nature. I think that's more what it is. There's just a lot more nature. As you know, in China, people have been living here for, well, who knows how long, and they've been farming the land for who knows how long. So if you look around, you see there's not really a lot of trees. It's just rice paddies, which can have its own beauty. But
Yeah,
mountains and forests, there are none.
yeah, that's true. It's more, developed um elsewhere, but just I guess in mainland China, things are not as developed in the countryside, you would say. So people, we don't think of the same way. It's just so we have all these farmlands just for like growing food. We don't think about making it, beautiful or anything.
I think that's a Chinese thing in general. They tend to be very practical. A long time ago, of course, I like cars. That's something I probably haven't brought up too much in
Yeah.
the video. Sorry, there's the neighbor going by here. Say hello. But anyway, so back to my story. Back in the day, I liked two-seat sports cars, right? The Chinese attitude is, why on earth would you get a car that only fits two people and has no space for any stuff? Why would you pay more money for a car like that? And they just couldn't understand it because, they're very practical. The land isn't to make beautiful out here, it's to grow food. And to grow food on every square inch of it that they possibly can.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about school? Have you noticed any differences between, let's say, middle school, high school, that sort of thing between the United States and China?
Yeah, definitely. When I was going to middle school in China, I was literally living at school. Like I rarely get to see my parents or my grandparents or anyone besides my classmates. you know. So whenever, because starting the like first year in the middle school, you have to gradually move into school pretty much, so you can stay competitive with your classmates and such. And back then, I'm sure it's the same nowadays, and the teacher and everyone will make you feel ashamed if you know if you have bad scores or anything. They will definitely make sure everyone knows that, so you will be publicly ashamed by the teachers, the classmates, your friends. So during my time in middle school, and I remember there were some students sitting all the way in the back, so they're the ones who never studies. So the classroom is divided between the good students and the bad students. So the bad students, they always sit in the back.
Now that's the
But-
same in America.
Really?
I think that's the same.
Yeah. So then they just sleep in the class. They never listen or try to learn anything. Then the good students are all up at front, but they also compete with each other.
Now I have to ask a question. Were you one of those students that had the big red armband thing on and
No,
stood in the front
no, but actually,
let's
that-
all recite the whatever?
that was the funny thing, though. When you go to, I think, starting in middle school, you can actually enroll in the communist like
It sounds so funny as a Westerner.
the communist student program. I would say, it's just
They're not called
like,
Red Guards, are they?
No, it's just like something you can get enrolled while you are like really young in school. So this way it will get you ready for like the Communist Party later on.
Did you join this
Yeah, I
student communist league?
association. Yeah, I did join.
You're a communist? What?
Yeah, and I.
You are? No, you're not.
But
She's not a communist. Don't worry.
another thing was, like during those middle school years, we learn all about history, Chinese history, world history, every kind of thing you can think of. And, when we were learning about Chinese history and such, like there were, tons of chapters praising, the Chairman Mao and his leadership and all that stuff. But when he was talking about his, like other movements like Cultural Revolution and such, then it was kind of like they didn't take that part out. They
just kind of glazed over it.
Glazed
Oh,
over
don't
it.
worry about that part.
So, and then we learned a lot about how Mao came to be and all this hardship, and a lot of people suffered and all this stuff. Even during my younger years, my mom was keep praising Chairman Mao, saying without Chairman Mao there is no China.
I think she still praises Chairman Mao sometimes.
Yeah, she still she still praises him today. That's just how he was in everyone's eyes back then.
Ah, there you have it. Chairman Mao, the hero of the nation. The hero of the nation. So I'm curious, just for myself, what do they teach you about communism in Chinese school? Because obviously this is a communist country and you went through the school system here. So tell me first, what is communism?
Well, it's just a good life for everybody. So that's pretty much the message. Ever since like kids start to learn history or anything about China at school, we would start to learn about that part, like how Chairman Mao was a great leader, and all that what he had to do to make us all united and to have a decent life here in China.
Now I have to ask. So that's the message. Communism means a good life for everybody.
That's correct.
Would you say that communism... Nah, I better not get into political stuff. Obviously, communism does not tend to work out on a national scale. There are plenty of examples of that. And as far as communism, would you say that most Chinese people are actually communists?
No.
Or would you say they're ultra-capitalists?
Definitely not. Nowadays, even back then, pretty much, most people, they all only care about how to, do better and, make everyone have a good life, all the family members, and make sure them doing well and such. So most people, they don't really care so much about whether, it's communism or, capitalism. So as long as you can make money and make your family a good fortune, then that's all what matters.
Now, what was that old phrase that Deng Xiaoping always used about the cat?
Oh, they say good cat, bad cat, as long as oh, sorry. Yeah, good cat, bad cat, as long as you can, catch a mouse, you are a great cat.
And there you have it. That's kind of the Chinese attitude. Yeah, and it's been my experience, watch your step there, that out here, money is the number one thing. It's, now family is very important in China. Families are very, very close. But someone was asking in the comments about, Leninism and, Marxist stuff. No, they don't care about any of that. The only thing they care about is if you're going to get respect, it has nothing to do with the kind of job you have. It has nothing to do with position. It all has to do with how much money you have. And I think it goes back to that phrase, good cat, bad cat. As long as it catches the mouse, it's a great cat.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
that's kind of how they gauge things. If you're some kind of an executive but you're broke, and then there's some kind of like farmer that's rich, believe me, the farmer is the one that's getting all the respect, not the executive. In fact, the executive would probably be put down because, hey, you're an executive that doesn't make any money. What kind of an idiot are you? That sort of thing. Now, while I have an expert on Chinese family here with me, I did want to talk about Chinese family because they tend to be very, very close. Closer than, I feel like they're closer maybe in many ways than Western families. Now, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying, American families and Western families aren't close. I'm just saying Chinese families are much bigger in, I guess, the circle that you would consider your family. And they tend to really work closely together on things. So maybe you can tell a little bit about family life in China. Maybe I can ask you some things. So, grandparents. Now, I've heard so many different people referred to as your grandfather. Now, I know who your grandfather is, but tell me about that, because his brothers are also grandfather, right?
Yeah, we call, they're also like my grandfather.
Yeah.
And they are, because they're my grandpa's, brothers, so we respect him. And they're, obvious also our grandpa.
Now I want to talk about one thing that really confuses me. So in a Chinese family, you have all these different aunts, for example, because the one child and the two child policy hasn't existed forever. But let's say, how many aunts do you have?
So I have quite a few aunts from, both sides, my dad's and my mom's side.
Now, in America, if it's my aunt, it doesn't matter if it's the oldest aunt, the youngest aunt, they're all just aunt. And in China, that's different, though, and it's really difficult for me because you have to keep track of everybody and where they fit into the family. So you have like a first aunt. How does this work?
Yeah, so, the aunts or uncles are very important from my dad's side of the family because they're, even closer, much closer to us. And so we call them gu. That's just a Chinese word for, aunt. And then all the aunts and uncles from my mom's side, they're not as close to us. They're never really close to us so much because, in China, normally, let's say if a lady is married and, there's like even some older countries saying, like they say, oh, a married woman is like a bucket of water. A bucket of water poured out, That's like...
That sounds so bad.
Yeah, it's like, it's like you are out. You are no longer within this family. So therefore you married into the guy's family. That's why the guy, all the person on the guy's side is important and very close. And then the people on your, on the mother's side are not as close to the kids, But so like my, obviously my family is no different. So all my aunts and uncles from my dad's side, they're much closer to us. And they, when we were young, they really cared about us. No matter where
they still do. They still care about it.
They, no matter where they walk, so they always bought us clothes, trying to check us and to see how we did at school and everything. But the
you might want to come up here.
From my mom's side, they never checked on us or anything. They just like, when we rarely see them anyway. When we, do get to see them, they're just okay, just not extremely nice or rude to you, just fine.
Now, my difficulty with this is that everyone has a title. So,
yeah, based on their age, seniority. I guess in that way I like, Spanish a lot. This is senior.
yes.
It's very respectful. Like in Chinese culture, definitely you have to respect the elders, the people who are older than you. So, and obvious for the titles, the same thing. The ones who are the oldest, you call them 大姑, right? The oldest aunt, which means the biggest. So then you go accordingly, the first, second, third. So it based on their age.
大哥, 二哥,
Yep.
and so on and so on.
Yep.
And you have to remember, especially as a foreigner coming to visit, who is who. And yeah, that can be complicated because, as I said, in America and other places, it's just aunt. There's just one word you have to learn. Very easy. But here, not so much. And same thing, you have, I'll just say everybody in the family has a title and a position, and for newcomers that can be difficult. But you got to show respect, right? Just as she said. Older, more respect, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you find yourself in the situation and you're not sure, sometimes it's best just to pretend like you don't know any of the language at all and just smile and nod, and then you can't really offend anybody that way. Just, hey, that's the greatest guy. He's just the guy that smiles and, laughs and nods his head all the time.
Just be friendly.
That always worked for me.
That's the common sense.
So while we're on the topic of family, I've noticed that with cousins, a lot of times I don't hear you call them like a word for cousin. I hear you call them like brother or sister.
Yeah, so they're, the cousins, the ones, especially the ones from my dad's side, they're like, they're like my family. I mean, really close in the family, I would say. So, let's say if it's a boy, we call them, it depends on their age, older or younger. So we call them the Didi or,
That means little brother.
Gaga, yeah.
And that means big brother.
So they're, you can tell just by the title, like how close they are to the family,
Yeah, and that's what I mean by the circle of who you consider like your close family is much bigger here. So cousins, they're like brothers. It's just, the whole circle is much closer than, how would I describe it? In America you have, your brothers and sisters are just your immediate family, and your cousins are probably close, but here they're literally like your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that we've talked about this enough. That's going to make for a pretty long video, I think. So we'll end it there, and I guess we'll see you in the next one.
See you. Salut.
Salut.